A treasonous coup, sedition, conspiracy, subverting the will of the American people. Those are just some of the words used by Department of National Intelligence Chief Tulsi Gabbard to describe the alleged actions of Barack Obama, intelligence officials, and Hillary Clinton, to name a few, after declassifying more documents today regarding the plot to destroy Donald Trump with a Russia hoax. And today, Gabbard dropped a political bomb in the White House press briefing room.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people.
Unbelievable. Gabbard posting that new 46-page document to X today, in which she says further shows that the Obama administration manufactured that 2017 intelligence assessment report, which promoted the huge lie that Putin helped Trump win the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton. Now, the Department of Justice has also now officially received a referral for criminal charges, who will then ultimately decide who gets charged and for what. And it also revealed that no one is above the law, not even a president.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment.
Gabbard says more evidence of a conspiracy is forthcoming and that whistleblowers are also coming forward. Gabbard told Newsmax's Rob Schmidt last night that evidence shows it was none other, you just heard her there, that Barack Obama, who carefully masterminded this entire hoax.
The summary of conclusions that came from that meeting, which happens after every principals committee meeting that you know now in President Trump's cabinet we participate in, that summary of conclusions then provides the documented evidence of how President Obama ordered tasks through then DNI Clapper to the intelligence community to create an intelligence community assessment that details how Moscow tried to meddle in the U.S. election to influence the outcome in favor of President Trump. So the distinction there is very clear from the intelligence community's assessments prior to the election, just after the election, and then what happened and the document that was drafted and published in January of 2017 under the direct instruction, the direction of President Obama at that time.
Gabbard says veteran intel officials even warned Obama and former CIA Director John Brennan that the intel regarding Trump, that he was colluding with the Russians, was fake. But the 2017 intel assessment, it was created anyway. Yet here we are, years later, and only now we're finding out the truth. It's coming out. So why did it take so long? Well, the answer is simple. The media. Even today, CNN blatantly censoring Gabbard at today's briefing.
Multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th...
We've been listening there to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continuing on what has now been a multi-day effort, not only with public statements like this, but release of documents, to attempt to back up the quite extreme allegation that President Obama is guilty of treason.
Attempt, quite extreme. many media outlets, they became the right arm activist propaganda machine for the Democrat Party. According to the Media Research Center, from 2017 to 2019, ABC, CBS, and NBC dedicated over 2,000 minutes of evening news coverage on the Trump-Russia collusion story, basically saying he was guilty. And reminder, that's not including the cable news outlets, which clearly had just one angle to the story. And it was like on a loop, non-stop.
Russia hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
Russia did interfere with our election.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
If you can get them to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get them to accept who won the Civil War.
Well, Russia has definitely been interfering with the election.
I think that there's pretty much agreement on all sides that Russia definitely tried to influence the election in some way.
Yet when it came to the Biden auto pen scandal, ABC, CBS, PBS, they didn't even cover it at all. And NBC spent a scant 34 seconds on it. Folks, this is how indoctrination and brainwashing happens. A misinformation campaign bought hook, line, and sinker by Democrat activists masquerading as journalists. And then Obama, Brennan, Comey, and of course Hillary spun the same lie over and over again every single chance they got.
No denying that the Russians interfered in the election.
Right.
Whether or not they had willing or unwitting help from the Trump team, they interfered, and they did so to help him and hurt me.
There should be no fuzz on this whatsoever. The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle.
But was there intelligence that said that the Trump campaign was colluding with Moscow during their campaign?
There was intelligence that the Russian intelligence services were actively involved in this effort, and having been involved in many counterintelligence cases in the past, I know what the Russians try to do.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows.
And now we know what you're about, Hillary. Perhaps they were taking a cue from George Costanza of Seinfeld. Remember this? When he notably said, "It's not a lie if you believe it." But I like to take a cue from Winston Churchill instead, who said, "Truth is incontrovertible. Panic may resent it. Ignorance may deride it. Malice may distort it." But there it is. Exposing the Russia hoax is ultimately about exposing the truth. It's about preserving our democratic republic and finally holding the elite, the powerful, accountable, and reminding Americans why Lady Justice has a blindfold on. Remember this moment. We are all watching history taking place, vindication taking place, and validation of our worst fears, that the deep state is alive, but hopefully not well for much longer.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.